What's up, guys? My name's Alexis, your host with Praises in the Pod, and I'm so excited to be here with Stephanie Reeves today. You know, we're going to be talking about her testimony and what God has done in her life. We are going to start off in prayer, and then we're going to jump right in. So here we go. Lord, Heavenly Father, just thank you for today and all of your many blessings, dear God. Thank you for Stephanie and her willingness to be able to come and share what you have done in her life. We just pray that you speak to us and through us today, and let this episode glorify you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. So here we go. Let's get started. So start us out. I always ask, a little bit about your childhood. Let's start there.
All right. I was raised by my stepdad and my mom. I call him Dad because that's pretty much the only dad I knew. My real father kind of left, I guess, might as well say right around the time I was born. So my stepdad, I feel like, is my dad. So I had a really great childhood. My parents are great, very supportive, was always at all my stuff. As far as church, Mom would take me and my sister. So I wouldn't say it was consistent. And we went to a couple of different churches, but I wouldn't say that we were, faithfully going to church all the time.
Yeah. But I get that. And I love how I didn't know that you were more so raised by your stepdad. And this morning at like 4 a.m., I woke up and I just wanted to pray for my dad and my stepdad specifically, of just he didn't have to, but he did.
Yes.
Those men that step up and just help raise children that aren't biologically theirs, and they end up loving them just as much, But I don't know. Just when you said that, I was like, wow, I woke up so just thankful this morning for my dad. Yeah.
Because he has another daughter, but you would never have guessed that we were not, me and my sister were his children. Yeah. Yes. I had a great father.
Love that. So just moving on up in life, you're kind of in and out of church, but not really going to church or have a relationship with Christ.
No.
So tell us a little bit about high school. Maybe jump to you and Chris getting together, your husband.
Well, in high school, I got saved in high school.
Okay.
I kind of go back and forth with that because the way I got saved, I was with a boyfriend, and it was kind of more of you have to be saved. You have to be saved. If you're not saved and you die, this is what's going to happen. And so it was more of a fearful kind of save. So sometimes I'm kind of like, I said the prayer later on in life too, but that was the first time I did it. But I feel like it wasn't for the right reason, I guess you could say. But I graduated, and me and Chris got together. 6 months later, we were married. It was It was very quick.
When you know.
Yes, I'd have to say it was kind of hard for my parents because I was 18 years old. He was 6 years older than me. So, of course, he was already teaching. He's a teacher and a coach. He was already teaching. He was coaching. He was established. But we got married. And then 6 months later, we moved to Thomasville.
Wow.
I was.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yes. So by then I turned 19. So I was 19, moved away from my family, living in a town. Like I said, Chris is coaching football. He's coaching baseball in South Georgia. So he was gone, you might as well say, every day of the week. I mean, he practiced Monday through Thursday. They played games on Friday. Saturday, they were in Albany, Georgia, scouting. Sunday, we were doing a coaches meeting. So But I became a parapro when we moved there, and actually changed my major to education. I was going to be a physical therapist.
Okay.
So completely changed my major. But worked during the day and went to school at night. So I was pretty busy too. So, we were kind of had to, I don't know, maybe didn't see each other. Just had to be very intentional about when we could spend time together.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes went scouting with them on a Saturday.
Just to spend time with one another.
Our 1 year anniversary was very comical. He was teaching me formations because I was helping him break down film.
Oh.
So very, very memorable. Kind of tells a little bit about
the football family started then.
Yes. Absolutely. Lots of fun.
Yes.
Chris had been raised, he had went to church. He might have went to church a little bit more than I did. But as soon, when we got married, we were just kind of the same. We went to maybe more church, maybe on a holiday type thing. We still were not consistent churchgoers.
So y'all were together quite a few years before you have your first daughter, Elizabeth. So I think it was 6 years.
6 years. 6 years.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, were y'all ready to start a family, or how did that happen?
Yes, I think so. I had gotten pregnant before Elizabeth and had a miscarriage very early. Very early. Like, I think I was 5.5, 6 weeks. And so that was it was a surprise for us. So we was kind of like, oh, but then after we lost the baby, I was kind of like, maybe I am ready, to have a child. So we got pregnant, and we had Elizabeth. My mom had come down to stay with us, and I remember thinking, she left a week later on a Saturday, and I remember looking at Chris saying, what am I supposed to do with her on Monday? And I said, are you going to stay with me? And he was like, no. And I thought, you're going to leave me here with her? I was scared, so scared. And it's crazy to think about, because 4.5 weeks later, he left and took a job in Macon County. And I was in Thomasville by myself with her. So if somebody had told me that then, I don't know what I would have done. It was just so crazy.
Well, there's just so many times we're so scared, like what's going to happen, whatever, but we are fully equipped.
Yes.
But we just don't think that about ourselves at all.
I did not, because he left, and I had about 2 weeks before I went back to work. And at that time, I was coaching too. I was coaching middle school track. And so I had a friend that would come over and keep Elizabeth while I was at track practice. And so it was crazy until the end of the year. And then, we moved.
What's the age difference between Catherine and Elizabeth?
2 years.
2 years.
26 days.
Oh, wow.
They're very close.
Hey, all right.
They're very close.
So then you have Catherine. We're getting a rhythm down, right?
I have Catherine, but, we're in Macon County then. So, totally different place, but closer to my parents. They could, get there about 35, 40 minutes. So that was nice. But we had Catherine. Shortly after I had Catherine, we moved to Albany.
Just moving.
Yeah. Coaching is a lot like military. You move around, swap schools. Like Chris likes to say, your job is kind of in the hands of high schoolers.
Yeah.
It can be a little scary sometimes.
But
anyways, we were in Albany. We only stayed there a year. And while we were there, Chris was coaching and getting his 6-year specialist degree.
Very busy.
Yes.
What does, in this point of y'all's life, what does church and your relationship with God look like?
No.
Yeah.
No, I would say very non-existent.
You're just on like co-pilot, just coasting.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe going to him when you have a problem, need some help.
Yeah.
But not a everyday consistent thing at all.
Yeah. So after Catherine, you do get pregnant again.
I do.
Talk to you a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I actually got pregnant, and about 2 years after Catherine, because we had planned, like you can plan this. But anyways, we had planned like every 2 years. And so about 13 weeks, lost another child. And so after that, took us a while to get pregnant. This was the first time we had ever had difficulty. Usually when we wanted to try, we got pregnant. So I had some difficulty there. Finally got pregnant, and it was really crazy. We were fixing to go in, have an ultrasound, and I'd had a dream that we were having twins.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, well, that's pretty crazy. Whatever. We get there, and we are pregnant with twins. And I was like, oh my goodness.
I know. Did you already tell Chris that you had this dream too? I bet he was like,
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So here we are, pregnant with twins, thinking, okay, Chris had already said something about 4. I was like, okay, we'll be done. This will be it. This will be it. So everything's pretty good. Nothing terrible about the pregnancy at all. At our 20-week ultrasound, we go in and they call me back and they're like, hey, they called them twin A and twin B. They were like, twin B, we just didn't get a good measurement. We don't think anything's wrong. We just couldn't see what we wanted to see on our ultrasound machine. We want to send you to a specialist because their ultrasound machine's much better. Okay. Didn't get in till about 23 and a half weeks. Still didn't think anything about it. we went, we're laying there. The lady comes in, and I kind of look at Chris's face and can tell something's not right. Well, she immediately turns everything off, and she's like, "You're going to need to go back to your doctor's office." And I'm like, "What's wrong?"
I know. Say something writing down.
Something obviously is wrong. And she's like, "No, you really need to go back to see your doctor." And so me and Chris get in the car. We drive back, to my doctor. And I think he knew, I think he saw, but we didn't really say anything. So we go in there and we learn that they're both gone. And so we're just, in shock, They come in and they say, "Well, you're going to have to come in and deliver them." We didn't really ask a lot of questions about the process and all that. We were just just numb.
Yeah.
So they tell us we got to go back to the hospital the next morning, and we go back, and I don't even remember that night. I mean, I do remember that night. I mean, I feel crazy because, actually in the middle of the night, I wake Chris up and I think I actually feel them moving. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy what your mind will allow you to think. But of course they weren't. So we get up the next morning, we go to the hospital and check in, and they start the stuff to try to start the process. We had no idea it would take so long. So we went in on that morning about maybe 7. We didn't actually have them till the next day around 1.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
It's a very long process. It was very long.
Do you think that, because that's very heavy to deal with, and not deal with, I hate to say it that way, but, to go through. That's a better way to say it. Do you think that was a big turning point in y'all's marriage, or do you feel like you more so started leaning on one another? I go to say that because later down the road, our listeners will find out something else. Yes. So do you think that maybe played into some of that too, like that time period?
Yeah. Well, yes. At first, that was my worry. I thought, will we make it through this? This is huge. Will we make it through this? Because this just devastated Chris. Devastated him. We ended up, it was twin boys, football coach. Of course, he loves his girls. He loves them. But, he'd always wanted boys. So it was very hard for him. And I watched him crumble, and I was like, had never seen that before. So I was like, oh, wow. So I'm going to have to kind of step it up a little bit here. A week later, after this happened, he lost a baseball player in a car accident. And so here we are again, a week later, and he's trying to deal with that. We had been trying to deal with the loss of the twins. When we got home from the hospital, I just remember it was just, I couldn't even think about something that was going to happen in 2 or 3 hours. I couldn't think about the next day. All I could just think about was just right then and there.
Yeah.
It was so hard. The girls were 4 and 2 at the time. My parents were always helping us. And when they were, Elizabeth was in school, Catherine, we would get up and go to my parents' house when Chris was at work just didn't want to be at the house.
Yeah.
But it was a very hard time. You would think that might have been a time we might try to lean into God a little bit more, but we did not.
Yeah.
That would probably been the better choice. But
during that time that you were mad at God,
I did ask why.
Yeah.
Because, I had felt like I had already lost 2 other children.
Yeah.
And the second miscarriage, I had to end up having an emergency D&C. It started happening at our house in the middle of the night. So we had to get up. So, I thought, I've already had, why is this happening? Yeah. So, of course, yes, I hate to say I did, but I did. Didn't really understand it.
You do. I have some more children, though.
Yes. So, well, I do have more children. Yes, I do.
Y'all are the Brady Bunch.
Yes. Chris was pretty much done. He really did not want any more children. I really did.
Yeah.
So we were kind of like at odds at that. And I was like, just one more, we can do this. So, I finally talked him into it. We did get pregnant again, and we had another loss very early, like 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, oh, he's not going to want to do this again. He's not going to want to do this again. But we did. We got pregnant and we had Nicholas. And so around after Nicholas was born, we kind of started going to a church, kind of started getting involved in a church. I actually started volunteering. It was my first time sitting in a church, and I hate to say this, actually paying attention. Most of my church in my life had been, I went, but I didn't really pay attention.
Yeah.
Like my mind would just wander. And I mean, honestly, if I'm going to be honest, I wasn't getting anything out of it. So it really wasn't meaning anything to me. So this was the first time going to a church, sitting there, actually getting some meaning and learning a little bit,
Like feeling like you're hearing from God.
Yeah, there was a purpose, I had not really felt that before. So that was good. That was a good point in our life. We needed that. We had the kids in church because, here we were, our third child, and we weren't really doing what we should be doing as parents either. Our kids being.
Did y'all have a conversation more so about it, or like, what was the turning point of like, let's go try out this church?
Actually, I worked with it was a startup church, so I actually worked with the lady. She was at my school. She was a parapro, and so hearing about it, then I thought, well, let's give it a try. And so it just really clicked for us. And like I said, for me, it was the first time that I was like, oh, this is what church is about.
Yeah,
this is what you're supposed to do. So it was good.
I love that because, just probably in passing, you hear her talking about it, and then that's a seed that was planted, and finally you're like, you know what, let me give it a try.
Yes.
So it's like really something that we should be doing. Like, don't just sit on your hands and keep your mouth shut. Like, talk about your faith, talk about your church.
Yes.
Be able to tell people. You don't always have to invite, but just talking about it will spark an interest. I love that. Yeah.
Yep. And so, we're moving along. I'm thinking, we are a family of 5.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is what we need to be. Chris is like, let's have another one. I'm like, no. He had always said, I do not want an odd number of children. And I'm like, what? I don't.
Just in case you go to Disney World and y'all love Disney and stuff.
I'm like, I don't even understand. 3 is fine. No, they all need to have their own. It's fine. Well, God had other plans, and we had got pregnant with our surprise. I like to call him my surprise baby because he keeps surprising me all throughout life. He still does. So, very ashamed to say this, but I was not very excited about this pregnancy. It took me months to come to grips. It took me a while to tell my parents. Because, here I was, I thought I was done. And I guess I should say, when we moved back here, they've always kept my children. So, I'd kind of been telling them, this was going to be it. And then they were going to be free. They love my children. But, then they were going to be able to travel and go and do. And so I was like, we've got to tell them there's another one coming.
Yeah.
So we did.
Well, in this, like I was telling you a little bit earlier, like sometimes we always think as soon as we get pregnant, we feel like we have to be excited. And sometimes like we want children, of course, but like it's scary, pregnancies, sometimes harder and stuff like that. And so it's just refreshing to hear like maybe women that are listening right now, they're like, I felt like that when I found out I was pregnant. And so it's just refreshing to hear like you're not alone.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm like, so Chris was ecstatic.
Yeah.
So excited, so happy. I can remember when we found out. I can remember being at dinner that night. He's just so excited, and I'm just like, okay, I'm eventually going to get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time for me. This pregnancy was so hard. All my other pregnancies were so good. I didn't even understand when people were talking about a bad pregnancy. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's not that bad. This one was bad. They thought I had walking pneumonia when I was very, very early on. I was so sick. Then he sat on my sciatic nerve, so I was in constant pain. And so I can remember teaching pre-K at the time, and this is crazy. When they napped, I would have to lay on the ground for about 25, 30 minutes.
You had to get horizontal too.
Just so I could get up and make it through the rest of my day, because it was so painful. During that time also, Chris got a kidney stone, and it was a big kidney stone. He ended up with 3 surgeries.
Wow.
Before it was, it was out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was passed. So it was very, very hard.
Wow.
And, Alexander and Nicholas are only 22 months apart. So he was still really young when all this was going on. Actually, Chris's last surgery was like a week before Alexander was born. So it was a very long, drawn out process. So we get to the end with Alexander. Crazy pregnancy, crazy delivery. I thought my water had broke, and I go to the hospital, and they're like, no, your water did not break. And so I thought, well, maybe I wet on myself. But I was so embarrassed going to the hospital and them sending me home. I was like, this is my fourth kid. I should know better. So I go to work the next day. I am doing the calendar with my pre-K kids, and I feel like a trickle going down. And I'm like, whatever. This is not my water breaking. I looked at them. I said, I'm going home to change clothes, and I'll be back. We were going on a field trip to the bowling alley.
Oh, fun.
And so I said, I'll be back. Well, I get home, and I start hurting really bad. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. So I call Chris, and he's like, it sounds like you might be crying a little bit. And I'm like, well, a little bit. He said, are you in that much pain? And I'm like, I'm hurting pretty good. And he said, we need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I'm not going up there and then turn me back. He said, well, then let's go to the doctor's office. So we go to the doctor's office, and the doctor looks at me and he says, well, you can have him here, or we can have him at the hospital. If you want to have him at the hospital, we got to go now. You're like 6 centimeters. And I said, oh my goodness. So we get to the hospital, and from the time they put the IV in, he was born like 40 minutes later.
Wow.
Now, I will say that's probably the best way to have a kid. It was fast. Yeah, it was quick. It was nice. So we have Alexander. So now I'm like, we're done. We have 4 children. We're completely finished. So, life's pretty good.
That's good.
We're going to church. I told you we've kind of gotten plugged in there. And then I finally decided to be baptized. And so, I get baptized. Here's another thing that I'm kind of like, this is crazy to say. In my mind, I kept thinking, I'm going to get baptized and everything's just going to be a transformation. My whole life is just going to completely change, which I sit here now and think, and I know some people are going to think this is crazy. You get what you put into things. Amen. And I know that. I was raised that way. I don't know what in my mind why I thought that. So here we go. I get baptized, and I really don't see that much life change. So, but we still continue to go to church. But, Alexander's getting a little bit older. He's hitting his milestones. He's sitting up, he's crawling, he's walking, rolling over, all that good stuff. But he just never really says anything. So we kind of worried about it, but we weren't too worried because my mom said, you were a late talker. She said, you would do all this pointing and your older sister would be like grabbing everything for you. She said, I remember the pediatrician telling me, make her talk. So I was like, okay, there's not anything there. Plus, Nicholas had turned 4. Alexander was 2. Nicholas was fixing to go off to school. And so my parents were like, okay, he goes off to school. It's going to be us 2 and Alexander. Surely, he'll start talking. Because Nicholas was quite the little ham when he was younger. My parents live in a neighborhood where it was a lot of older people. So, everybody oohed and awed over him. So he just ate it up. He loved it.
That's where that intention.
Yeah.
He loves it.
So, yes. So he just ate that up. So we're like, he goes off to school, and now it's just going to be Alexander. And so we started seeing a lot of him, like he was always a loner, never really played with, with Nicholas, just kind of kept to himself. But he saw no danger. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, he's a boy, so maybe that's just part of the whole boy thing. Because I have a sister, no boys in our family. But then he would like, you had to really watch him because he would walk off. Like I said, he had no danger, walk off from you. It didn't bother him to walk off. So, there were some things there that we were concerned about. Well, Nicholas went to school. He still really wasn't talking a lot. And we started seeing, I would call them more meltdowns. No communication. It's not like he could tell us what the problem was. He was so frustrated. So, we're having meltdowns. We're screaming, crying, kicking, all kinds of stuff. And so we had a friend then that kind of told us about Babies Can't Wait. And so we got into Babies Can't Wait. They started some speech. They started some OT. And it's around this time where me and Chris are really growing apart. I mean, really growing apart. We're doing a lot of, arguing. We're not really talking anymore. It's almost like we're just kind of just going opposite directions.
Yeah.
So it was getting kind of bad. And so Alexander was taking up a lot of time. I mean, he just needed constant eyes on him. You couldn't keep your eyes off him.
Yeah.
It was hard to take him out somewhere because if you did, you had to have him strapped down somewhere because you were fearful that he was going to walk off or leave or something. So it was hard, It was hard to have the other three and it was hard to have him because you're trying to balance your time with all of them.
So Elizabeth is 6 years older than, is it 6? 7?
Let's say, yes, 7.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I mean, those are all very young, kids.
No, actually, Elizabeth is 9.
Okay.
And Catherine's 7 years older than
Alexander. Okay. But still, under 10, 4 kids under 10, that seems like a lot.
Yeah.
And then, with what you're dealing, I hate using the word dealing with.
It
Just sounds negative.
Yeah.
I don't mean it to be.
No.
But like what you're going through with Alexander and just trying to figure that out, I'm sure that's making a big strain on your marriage.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah.
And with coaching and teaching and everything else, it's just piling on.
Yeah.
So,
And Chris had moved to middle school instead of high school. And that was hard for him. He did not enjoy middle school. He was home a little bit more, but he did not enjoy the whole middle school model. The coaching, the kids and all that. He's high school. He wanted to go back to high school.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of hard. He was going through a lot. I was going through a lot. We're trying to figure out with Alexander. We still didn't really know. We had not got his diagnosis yet. That comes a little bit later. But with all that, we kind of stopped going to that church, so that was not a good thing at all. But we did start going to another church, some friends of ours. And so we did start going to that church, I think it was more because some friends were there. I don't know if it was quite the right fit for all of us, but we were going, but I don't know if we were going for the right reason.
Yeah.
Maybe we were going
or social hour.
Yes. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it was. And so wasn't getting as much out of it, but we were in church. The kids were in church. So that was, yay.
Yeah.
They knew some other kids around their age. They actually knew people there. But as Alexander started getting a little bit older, it was hard to take him to church. And so then I finally made the decision, that me and Chris, we were not going to work. We were not going to survive. So,
Here you go.
thank you. So I made the decision that we should separate.
Maybe was it just like was there a final straw or kind of just one day you woke up and was like, I don't want to live like this?
Yeah, I didn't want to live like this anymore. I just didn't think it was healthy for the kids. We were arguing all the time. So he didn't want to, but I did. So I ended up going and staying with my parents for a while. And so he kept saying no, and I just got in my mind. I was not going to do this anymore. I would just know, because we had done a little bit of counseling, but we didn't go to a Christian counselor. We just went to a counselor. So I was like, it's not working. I just cannot do all this arguing, this fighting, and still trying to deal with Alexander. And so we separated. We ended up getting a divorce, and so Chris went on his little path of, he started going to church. He was reading his Bible. I was actually seeing some changes in him, but I was like, no, we're just not good together. Maybe we're just better apart. But the church that we were going to, me and the kids we continued that one. But like I said, it was a small church. They couldn't handle Alexander. They couldn't. And I don't fault them for that, because you had to have your eyes on him, So we were going to church and ended up on the playground. So here's Alexander swinging, and here comes Catherine. Here comes Nicholas. And so this started an every Sunday thing. And I was looking, I was like, we're not really at church. We're just playing on the playground. So I stopped going. So in my mind, I was like, well, Chris had them every other weekend. He was taking them to church. So they were getting some church, but it was not working for us.
Yeah.
We finally got the diagnosis that Alexander was autistic. And so, finally got a little bit of help with that. He was doing OT, occupational therapy. He was doing speech. Thank goodness my parents would take him for me so I didn't have to take off from work. But it was hard.
Yeah.
It was very, very hard. He did not sleep well. His pattern was he either went to bed and got up around 2 or 3 and we were up the rest of the day, or we would go to sleep and we would get up around 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It was just no sleep. When Chris had them, I would sleep on the weekends. I mean, literally.
Catching up.
Yes, because it was hard. It was very hard. He just didn't sleep a lot. He's still having these meltdowns. The communication is very, very slow coming.
Yeah.
And so it was. I can remember one summer, all he wanted to do was ride in the car. Gas is $3-4 a gallon. He wants to ride in the car. I was driving a Suburban, and I said, buddy, Mama can't afford to drive you around. And I can remember sitting at the front door while he's kicking and screaming the door. And just thinking, I just don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But we signed him up for the Challenger League, and not that he loved it or whatever, but I can remember talking to a mom, and we were at the Burger King, and her kid was like middle school, high school age, and I can remember her telling me it won't always be this way. It gets better, and I'm thinking, I'm smiling.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm going,
you don't know.
You don't live in my house. You have no idea what I'm going through. It's never going to be this way. I just gotta say, this is my baby, and this is the way it's going to be, and we got to deal with it. But she was so right. It does get better.
Amen.
It does get better.
So if you're in that situation right now, it does get better.
Yeah, and I've said that to other moms, and I know I'm always thinking, I know they're probably thinking the same thing I am, but it does get better, Like I said, Chris, thank goodness, he continued to try to get us back together. He really did.
He was persistent.
He was very persistent.
He was his family and his woman.
Yeah, he was very persistent, and thank God he was.
Yeah.
But he was at Southside.
I was about to say, I remember in Catherine's testimony, which if you haven't heard, her daughter, Catherine, which is also one of my besties, she was on the episode, the beginning.
Yes.
So we've come a long way since then, but we're getting to hear from you and your side of this. So he was at Southside.
He was at Southside. And like I said, he had started reading his Bible, and I could see changes in him. So I was like, okay, well, the kids are with him every other weekend. And so obviously Alexander's somewhere. So I hadn't got a phone call. So obviously things are working out. So I'm like, okay, I'll go. And it changed my life. It changed my life. And I finally got to a church, and I could listen. I didn't have to wonder if he was running around, or if he was actually okay. Listened. I was actually learning about the Bible and was paying attention the whole sermon. I was like, oh my goodness, I actually listened the whole entire time. And so for me, that was a big major breakthrough, because I just have always struggled when I was at church to listen.
Stay locked in.
Why was I here? What was I learning? And so, we kept going. We actually got back together.
Yes.
I know that was hard for some people. They didn't understand it. They were against it. They did not think that was right. They were seeing the two of us before we were, but they didn't want to see where we were headed. My parents were fine with it, but like other people, I don't want anybody to think it was my parents. It was not. But so here we are. We get back together, and we're in church. We start to volunteer at church. I start reading my Bible. I was like, oh, wow. Start actually praying, start putting a lot of things into practice and doing it every day.
Yeah.
And start seeing a lot of changes. I don't want to say that life is not heavy anymore, because it is definitely still heavy. but it's so much easier.
Yeah,
it is so much easier to deal with all this stuff that happens in my life now that I have God, now that He's in my life, that I have a relationship with Him. And so things have gotten a lot better. I can handle things a lot better. I'm a better person. But it took a lot to get here.
Yeah.
It took a lot of me thinking I could do things on my own, and I can't do it on my own. And so, yeah.
When y'all did get back together, like, was it just like pure bliss, or like there was a lot of like learning to spiritually be one together?
There was a lot for me. I'm reading my Bible now, so I have lots of questions. And so me and Chris would have a lot of discussions about it. We would talk about it, so that helped a lot too. I still have a lot of questions. Yeah. I was asking him questions this morning before he left. Awesome. So I'm always wanting to continue to learn, because when I started in the New Testament, I was always scared to read the Old Testament, because every time I would start to read it, I just didn't understand, just did not feel like I understood. So I kind of stayed away from all that. This year I started the Bible recap,
yes,
which was the best decision, because to see everything, how it's happened chronologically, has been eye-opening for me.
I'm so glad you said that, because I get messages about this, because more regularly we talk about the Bible recap on here. And so people always reach out and they just are like, what is it? And so if you are asking that, it's the YouVersion app.
Yes.
And you can't you do it two different ways? Can you do it? I've only done the chronologically, but can't you do it straight through too?
Maybe.
Or is that the Bible in a year?
I'm not sure. I started on January the 1st.
Amen.
Yes. And the thing about it is it's kept me on target. Yep. It's kept me on track. And because I don't want to get off of track.
Yeah.
And it really has made that an everyday habit.
Yes.
Which has been really good. But it's just opened my eyes so much.
I broke mine down because I want to complete a task, and I feel like that's a long time to keep a task going. So I did the New Testament. Yeah. I finished that one, and it broke it up into like 91 days. It wasn't bad at all. I don't know. And then I'm going to start the Old Testament. And so I'm so excited that you brought that up. I'm glad other people are going to get to hear about it too. Yes. So a little bit about life right now. I know that y'all have been having a few scares with Alexander and stuff. So
he's had some seizures. He had his first one on March 17th, and it was with me. We were in the car, fixing to try to drop him off at Veterans High School, and scared me. I was an educator for 30 years, so I've been with kids my whole life, but this scared me. Like, I didn't handle it really well. In my mind, I knew he was having a seizure. In my heart, I thought I was losing him. Like, I'm thinking he's fixing to die on me. And it was just crazy. I was an emotional wreck. There was a nice little man in a truck behind me that got out, came over to help me. I wish I knew who it was. I have no idea, but he was so helpful, trying to help me through all that. We didn't get any answers. They did an EEG. Everything came back. And so they were like, he might just have one and that be it. And I'm like, okay, that's great. We're just going to have one seizure. That's all. A couple of weeks ago on a Monday, we get a phone call. He's had another one at school. So we go to the pediatrician's office, and she says, let's get in with the neurologist. And so we're waiting to try to get all that going. And so the next Monday, he has another one. I just dropped him off at school, and so they called me. And so I turn around. I go in his room. He's on the ground. He's blue in the face. And so it scared me. I was like, why is he so blue? And they were like, well, he aspirated during this seizure. And so I go home, and Catherine's there and Chris is there. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm taking him to the emergency room. If y'all want to go, y'all go. If you don't, it's fine. But that's where I'm at. So me and Chris take him to the emergency room, and they do an EEG, they do a EKG, they do a CAT scan, and it's not showing anything. And their neurologist come in, and he's like, really would like to do an MRI on him. And he said, we can do it in-house or we can do it out-house. Well, they had come in to do his IV, and he has really bad veins like his daddy. So they actually had to bring in the ultrasound machine where they find the vein. So he gets the IV in, and the guy looks at us and he says, it's in. He said, it's not in the way I would like for it to be, but it's in, and we're just going to hope that it holds. And I'm thinking, okay. So all day long, we hear, I want this out. Get this out now. The nurse comes in. He says, doctor, take this out.
Oh, my
She's like, I'm not the doctor. I'm the nurse. And so then he started calling her by her name, Danielle. Danielle, take this out. So when the neurologist tells us that, and I was like, okay, so is he going to have an IV for this? And he said, well, I would like to do it with contrast. So yes. So I said, well, we need to do it here.
Yeah.
So we had to spend the night, or I should say Chris spent the night with him in the hospital. Because if everybody who knows Alexander knows, when it comes to discipline, Chris is first with him. Catherine's actually second, and I come in third when it comes to discipline.
Yeah.
He's going to listen to those two more, and he listens to me. So we thought Chris needs to stay with him. So he got an MRI, but didn't show no stroke, no damage, no tumor, no nothing. But they did send him home and put him on medicine. So right now, we're dealing with that, with medicine. He's 18, so being 18 has its, because he's lower functioning autism, he'll never live on his own. We had to go through and get guardianship. Actually, me and his daddy and Catherine were all his guardians. And so that's a different kind of world, him being 18, Everybody in the medical community has been very nice as far as letting us, be with him, but that's very, very different.
Oh, yeah.
Because
about that.
Yes. Because technically before we got guardianship, they could have told us, no, you can't come back here with him. No, he would have actually had to leave because I wouldn't have allowed it. But they could. They, absolutely could. So that's why we had to. That was the big thing about guardianship, I'm
glad you explained that because I was kind of wondering about that, like, why were y'all doing that? But that does make sense because he turned 18 and then y'all went and had, okay, got it.
Because, right after that seizure, they wanted to do blood. The first seizure back in March, they wanted to do blood work. And so they let us go back there. But then, they look at him. What is your name? And he just sits there. And I'm like, tell him your name. Alexander. And I'm like, tell him the rest of your name.
Yeah.
And he does. And they're like, what is your date of birth? And he's like, he just sits there. Tell him your birthday, buddy. March the 9th. And I'm like, so once he starts talking, usually you can figure, he has he's a big boy. He's like 6'3". He's huge, but he has a little soft little
Yes, I love
So most of the time when he talks, people are like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Well, okay. So yeah, y'all are going through an uncertainty.
Yes.
Certain time right now. So I'm sure that's very difficult, but I mean, you're plugged in. Y'all all serve at the church. Kristen went to the nursery or the kids.
Because he said he's retired too. He's always told us, when I retire, I'm going to the nursery to rock the babies. I said, well, you go to the nursery and rock those babies. So,
that's awesome.
and he likes to go up there a couple days and do crates for the kids ministry. So. And he's doing happy hour now. He's on the board of happy hour. So yeah, he's just.
Is Alexander going with him?
Not right now, but it's it's very interesting because I told Chris, I said, he can actually go to school till he's around 21, 22. So he's still got a few years left. And so after that, we have to have a plan for him because everybody knows Alexander knows he's very lazy. And
he does like his routine.
Yes, he does like his routine, but he kind of lazy. So we know that we have to have a plan for him because he can't sit at home all day.
Yeah.
So,
but then you're with your high school girls.
And now I'm at middle school now.
Oh, middle school. I'm sorry.
I was with high school.
You moved down.
I did. Yeah. I moved down to middle school. It's very
we flip.
Yeah,
me and you.
It's funny because I went from my girls were seniors last year, so they graduated, and now I'm with sixth grade. So very, very different type of small group or whatever, but they're very funny. Yeah.
Sixth graders definitely are.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because I told Catherine, you always write down their prayer request. And so I was showing her, I said, here's my senior girl's prayer request. And I said, here's my prayer request now.
Lots of dogs, lots of animals.
She always told me, she said, Mom, we do a lot of praying for dogs. And I was like, oh, okay. And so now I get it. I get it now.
When I did my sixth grade girls, I was like, as soon as the first one would say like an animal, I'm like, we're going to cover all animals in prayer. prayer. We're going to go ahead and just, it's a blanket prayer, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to.
Yes.
But yes, okay, so this has just been so great. But I want to close. I want to give you an opportunity to maybe say something. I do the same three every time. Maybe God's revealed something to you more recently that you want to share about. Maybe you were on the way here and you were like, I really want to talk about this, and I haven't gave you the opportunity to do that. Or do you have a piece of advice that you would like to give some other women?
My big thing, which I always do with my high school girls and even with these middle school girls now, is community. That's my big thing, is community and accountability.
That's good.
Because you've got to be very, very careful who you keep in close contact with. That's what kind of strayed me away, and wasn't with the right people. And you've got to be very careful with who you're spending your time with.
Yes, that's good.
I mean, you have to.
Yes. The accountability is such a big thing, because like unbelievers or unequally yoked friends or whatever, they're not going to hold you to the same standard as your friends that are equally yoked as you.
Yes. So they're going to be like, it's fine for you to do that. Yeah. It's okay. We all have have issues. We all, need to go do this and go do that. But no, you got to have somebody who's going to hold you accountable, and you got to have that community.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, because I mean, I talk about this all the time. I truly believe if me and Chris were where we were supposed to be, then I don't think we would have divorced. I really don't. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I feel like if we were, we could have worked through it, but we were not in the right place.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the right place.
And seeking the Lord in any way.
And so,
And I mean, that separation also drew Chris, I don't know why I said it like that, drew Chris to, dive into church and get involved in Southside, because Catherine was talking about how that was just a big pivotal moment for her. And now she's in ministry and works at Southside.
Yes.
So like, even if maybe it wouldn't have happened, it all did happen for a reason.
And that's what I have to tell myself, because I did have a lot of guilt at first about that, because when we were at Southside and all that, I was like, if we had been where we were supposed to be, I don't think all that other stuff had happened. And so I had to work through that a lot and tell myself, well, it's part of our story. It is part of our story. And so, you can't go back to the past. You got to start here and keep going. Keep going forward.
That's good. All right. I think we're going to end it there.
All right.
All right. I'm glad we got to do this and sit down and talk with one another today, but also for y'all to hear this awesome story of just really a God of restoration. I would say definitely a God of restoration. So guys, stay tuned, stay blessed, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.